Just recently, I got a special request to do a video demonstrating how to take off the drive wheel itself so that it could be sent in to repair or, repaired by anyone. As I think I've mentioned, I prefer, in the United States, actually paying money and sending them to Terry's Rubber Rollers in Sparta, Michigan. That's his contact information. He actually does what I think is excellent work. He's not cheap, about $50 to $60 per drive wheel to repair it. But he can take it from the condition that I'm about to show you into something that's actually going to work. So, let's go through the process of removing this, because it's something that's going to need to happen whether you send it to Terry's Rubber Rollers or just repair it yourself using some other means. So, let's go through the process here. Now, let's talk about the drive that we're working with. In the past, I've liked to work with the Wangtek 5099 for my universal QIC tape reader. This is a Wangtek 5125 SC, this particular one. And the difference here is there's a little bit more modern of a motor, and I think the circuitry on the backside is a little bit more modern, but it's still going to work. This model will still work for my universal QIC tape reader because it still contains a QIC 36 interface. And let's look at the backside here. We have the tape drive controller board here, and then we have the formatter board. Now, I don't know exactly what QIC tape format this is designed to work with. I would imagine it's QIC 24 up to QIC 150. The logic of that format is the same, but this is one of those things that can be very confusing. You want to go to QICreader.com for clarity if you're having questions about this, but there are the QIC nomenclature, naming convention, can be very, very confusing, because QIC 36 is right here. It's this card edge connector right here. This is the QIC 36 user interface, and this is what I use for my universal QIC tape reader, just connecting directly to pins right off of this. If you don't have this, then you'd have to do something else in order to get an unintelligent reader to work. This formatter board is designed to hook up to a SCSI, SCSI interface, I believe. I'm not 1000% certain, but I believe it is. But for my purposes here, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to use the board. Remember, the universal QIC tape reader is format agnostic. So we don't use this at all, we just hook directly up to this user interface. So the reason I'm showing this particular model is because I have tested on another one and believe that it already will work just fine for my universal QIC tape reader. As a matter of fact, just slightly better than the 5099. I think it's just a little bit cleaner of a read, but both are very good. Okay, but this video isn't about that. You can watch my other videos about building my universal QIC tape reader hardware, why I do all that, and read more at QICreader.com. This is going to be about removing this drive wheel right here. So let's do that. So there's a couple of different versions here. We have this. It has a ring here. And I guess before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to actually show the condition of this and why it needs to be removed. So if we have a look in there, we can see that the drive wheel, which is supposed to be right here, has melted completely off. See all this goo down here? I guess I'll take this little pointer. All this goo down here. This is what's left of the drive wheel, and this has been exposed to, some temperature at some point. I imagine it was, stored at 90, 100 degrees Fahrenheit at some point. But that's the kind of thing that when these things age and break down, they just melt right off. Just turn into goo that just runs all over. And actually, all of the drives that I'm going to demonstrate today have exactly that problem. So these wheels, the drive wheels, are useless until they're repaired. So let's do this. Now, right now, the position of the tape cartridge is in. We can see that when this is out, this is the thing that keeps you from putting a tape cartridge in there the way it is right now. So I don't know that it necessarily matters which position this is. This is in the tape in position. Let's give it a push here to see if we can do the tape out position. There's the tape out position. This just moves a little bit. It really doesn't matter which position it's in order for this particular procedure. We'll do it with the tape cartridge out. The tape cartridge out position here, just because. So step one, remove this belt here. Now I just did a quick spin. I noticed that this spins here, which tells me that I'm probably not going to have any problem getting this off whatsoever. So we'll take off this belt, just slip it off. I just pick it off with my finger here, slip it off the pulley, and set it aside. Step two, let's get in a little bit closer here. We'll be working on this. So this is where it gets tricky. I like to keep some Scotch tape handy because there's this little ring in here that is incredibly easy to lose. And if I take this out without being too careful and it springs across the room, I may never find it again. And it's a pretty important piece. I'd rather not lose it. So I get in here real close and I just have a look. This is actually a snap ring. And right there, in this point right here, this is where it opens up. So if you were to pull these two ends apart from here to here, that opens up this ring and you can slide it off of the slot on this shaft. See, the center shaft is actually attached to the drive and it's stationary. It doesn't move. This wheel moves around that center shaft. That center shaft is attached to the mechanism that moves in and out just a little bit when you insert and remove the tape. So that's a little bit about that. Okay, now I like to have this handy, and there's a couple of different ways to do that. This is my preferred method. I like to put a piece of Scotch tape halfway here, because that way if it springs up and away this direction, then it'll at least be caught by the tape or stopped by the tape and then fall somewhere down into this mechanism. Well, that's not ideal. It's much easier to find than if I do this unprotected. So, biggest risk is losing this. So I have these tools right here. These are just small hand tools that I got at Harbor Freight. I believe it comes in a set of 4 different shape ends, but I find that these work extremely well for this particular purpose. So I'm going to take these two and I'm going to hold one end here and one end here, and I'm just going to gently see if I can lift this off without flicking it across the room. Pulling it apart there. And it can be tricky. I don't want to bend it too far, but maybe I can without destroying it. The hard part about doing this is now I've created this tape as an obstacle for myself. So while it may add a safety chain, if you will, for this thing popping off here, it's also in my way. So maybe I'll move this back here a little bit. We'll see how this goes. I have no idea how this is going to go. It's been a while since I've done this. Pull and lift. Yeah, it's a little bit harder than I thought here. I'm going to take this off and look a little bit more closely. I also got these at Harbor Freight. These are like surgical pliers that lock, but I believe that these things were fairly inexpensive. Maybe I didn't get this at Harbor Freight, I can't remember, but this is actually very handy for this kind of thing. So I'm not sure if it's called a hemostat or something like that. Please forgive me if I have the tool incorrect. It's obviously not surgical quality. It's workshop quality, so I think it's ideal for this kind of thing. So, but I'd recommend having one of these as well if you don't. A nice precision pliers layer. Okay. So, I'm not sure how I would grab onto this thing, but let's see. Let's try that, and I'll just keep at it until I can get something here. And maybe I want to use a different shape here, although I'm not sure that's exactly what I want. Hold this one stationary. I think I'll pull this one towards me here and see if I can gently get this off of the... Oh, I think I got it. No, I didn't. There it is. There it is, right there. Just snapped right off. Now I did bend it a little bit. Just a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is, so that I don't pick it up and drop it, I'm going to pick it up with the tape. And there it is right there. So you see how I've stretched it out just a bit? Well, I'm pretty sure that I can bend it back in very gently by putting one end of these pliers and then just pushing on it. So let's try that. Oops. Can't quite grab it there. There we go. Move this out of the way and just work right down here. Trying to do this so that the camera can pick it up very easily. It's really not too hard to bend just with my fingers. So there it is, a lot closer to where it was before. Put this back on the tape. Right there. Now it's a little bit odd. Now I've made it a little bit oblong shaped, so I'm sure that's not the way it came when it was originally installed, but I'm quite certain it's going to work well. It will definitely hold that piece on when we go to put it back together. So now that I've done that, I like to take this piece of tape and I like to just tape it right here to the outside of the chassis. Now I'm not going to lose that thing because that would be a pain. So now that's not going anywhere now. So the next step should be just to lift this off. And I don't think it's going to be too hard. So let's zoom out just a bit here. Okay. Now there's, I think there's some more washers in here actually. Because I just tried to lift and it doesn't lift. So let's see if we can take these washers off. Yeah, see that washer right there? Let's try letting gravity work for us. Turning this upside down. Good. There it is right there. That fell off. So that's now out of the way. And I don't know what this is. But I'm going to set that aside. I don't think that is part of what I'm working on here. It's something that probably fell in this drive over the years. So I'm just going to grab this with tape. And I'm going to put it right here next to this. Put it right there next to that so that it doesn't go anywhere. These little pieces. So now let's try to lift this off. Nope, not yet. Okay, so there's more here. See if we can figure out what else is here. I remember it being just that simple. Well, I'm just going to get a small flat blade screwdriver here, and I'm just going to, not hard, just gently encourage this to come on up here. And depending on how much pressure I put on it, definitely don't want to put up enough pressure on it to bend it. But I'll see if I can pop this off of here. Yep, just like that. It came right off. I suspect that it has a little bit of something to do with the goo of the wheel that has just melted completely off. That's what I suspect, that it had something to do with that. Because that's the residue that's been left, just where it was left to drip off this wheel, probably the way it was sitting in storage for many, many years. But that's it. This is it. And this now should be sent in to somebody to repair it if you're not going to repair it yourself. Terry's Rubber Rollers, I think, is well worth it on that contact information. Even if you're not in the United States, you might want to find a way to, get that round trip. Find somebody you know in the United States that you trust that might be able to help you facilitate that, or, just contact Bob directly by email. He's a pretty nice guy, just one guy who does this, I think, as a hobby. But as far as I know, he's still in business, and he is my best recommendation because these things come back as better than new, because I don't think they ever have this problem again. Anyway, I'm going to set this aside. We'll look at what's left here. This is just the shaft, and I think we could see in there, zoom in a little bit further, I think we could see in there the how messy all of that is. Get a little extra light on the subject so we can see better. That's all the drive wheel goo. Now, the next step here, of course, is going to be cleaning this drive wheel goo out, because that's just a mess. It makes this thing very, very sticky. And you can see that's just hanging off right there. So that's just a small this is just a painstaking process of scraping that stuff off. And then I like to use some isopropyl alcohol here. And I think that the higher concentration of alcohol, the better. So I have this 91% solution. And then, you know, I get an eyedropper, preferably glass eyedropper, like this. I think I got these, you know, from China off of eBay. And as I work, I'll just drop some drops on here and dissolve some of this stuff and work it out. But that can actually make it a little bit gummier. So let's see what we can do first, just by picking the stuff out here. So I'm just going to, there's some chunks right there. I'll get a towel. Just something to scrape it out. So before applying any alcohol, I'd like to scrape all of this out while it's still solid. I think that's going to be the easiest. It's getting the stuff between the plates out that I use the alcohol for. That's if I decide I'm too lazy to disassemble these plates from each other. I've never actually done that. I've just put up with a mechanism that's a little bit sticky and just, you know, worked with it. And if it got a little bit too sticky, I just dropped in another couple drops of alcohol, and at least while the alcohol is not evaporated yet, it keeps it, it lets it flow enough for me to insert and remove a tape easily. But there's all kinds of ways to deal with this. This is just in case you're completely stuck and have no idea where to start, and you have a Wangtek drive that has had this problem, as most of them do, just because of the quality of that plastic. And if you want to know why this plastic decays and just turns into goo, not only do I have a page on QICreader.com, but it does link to Bob's Rubber Rollers. And his site, while it looks like it came right out of the 90s, still does have some good narratives on how the rubber was manufactured for these particular wheels, and why it aged so poorly and deteriorated so much. So, yep, that's it right there. That rolls just like that, comes right off. You know, I don't think I need to apply much alcohol to that, if any, because now that I've removed that, just scrape that goo out of there, I think it's doing just fine. Now there's some goo on here, but I think that's not going to get in anyone's way. That's just going to be aesthetic. So it all depends on how pretty you want this thing. I'm content with it being mostly functional, but to each his own on these things. If you want to make it as pristine condition, well, then I'd recommend taking all of this apart. Don't know how, not going to go into that today, so best of luck if you decide to go down that road. I am not going to. To me, this is operating smoothly enough. I'm very happy with this, and we're just going to send this into Bob's Rubber Rollers. So there you go. Now, I do have more of these, and let's just go through another one, because there's a different ring on the top. Not very much, but there is a different ring on the top. So let's go through the next one. Set the towel of goo aside, and we will, I think I'm going to, before I forget, I'm going to tape this on here, because I don't want that to get lost either. So we'll just tape that right there. And then that's not going to disappear as I set this off along the, on the side. Set this aside and wait for the drive wheel to come back all nice and pretty and install. Okay, so let's look at this one. This one's also a 5125 SC, and it also has the QIC 36 interface on the back. Again, I believe it's connected to a SCSI board. We'll call this the formatter board that has a hardware connection, SCSI, but this is still the QIC36, that card edge. 50-pin card edge is what I always look for, and so I'm quite certain that's going to work. So that's why I bought this. Guess I can leave that off. Doesn't really matter. But let's look at this one. See, this one's a little different here. This one is more of a standard E-clip, and it's a little bit thicker and robust. So let's see if we can do the same thing here about getting that one to come off. So, because it's exactly the same. That drive wheel has just melted off completely there. See, there's nothing there. It has just all come off. Let's see how this does. Well, that's pretty smooth, so I don't think... It almost looks like this dripped in a different direction. Because I just don't see that it got over the mechanism at all. So this one's pretty clean. It melted away somewhere, but I don't know where it went. Alright, anyway, let's take this off. We'll take off the belt here. Just pull that off and set that aside. And so now, that moves on its own just fine. This E-clip, these are always interesting. I suppose this one might be more at risk for flying all over the place, so I'm going to do that. And with this one, I'm going to get two of these. I actually got two sets. I got two sets of these tools here, and I'm going to get the two of them that are completely straight. We're going to see how that works. So let's see here. Let me see if I can just going to gently push this off. This direction. Just like that. Came right off. Didn't spring across the room. I don't know how much this tape helped, but there it is right there. It still could spring across, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this in there and lift up, but I still keep the tape to hopefully keep it from flying around. Sticks to the tape instead. A little extra precaution, but I've lost enough of these that I think it's worth the hassle of getting this tape in place first. There, just like that. Came right off. There. That's a much more robust E-clip on this one. But just like the other one, I'm going to keep it right here on this piece of tape. I think I'll get a fresh piece of tape. Set that right there. Tape that in place. Now it's not going anywhere. And let's see, I believe there's a washer on there, so I'll let gravity do its thing again. Nope, that one didn't come off quite so easily. Let's just try this. It's already come up a little bit. Yeah. Just very gently pull that off. I'm not even sure if this one has the same washer. Maybe that's why nothing fell off. Just like that. Just like that. Yeah, there's a washer right there. See it? Oh, now it did drop that one. Okay, I see it. I heard it. Where'd it go? Oh, part of the fun. Oh, the fun. So you see, that's why I use the tape. Had I used the tape there, I wouldn't have lost it. Now it's gone. Where did it go? I don't see it here anywhere. I'm going to have to search for it. And follow your own instructions. I wasn't following my own instructions. Shame on me. Well, anyway, it'll turn up. I'll find it. You don't have to watch me hunt for it. I will find it. I think I might have another one from another drive, but that's why. So let's take a good look at this just to see what that looks like. And that's same kind of goo, just like that. Alright, we'll send this one off to Bob's Rubber Rollers. And then there's the final one. I won't bother with this one except to show you this. This one also has the beefier E-clip. But in this one, I actually just unpackaged this. It looked like it had bubble wrap around it with very old masking tape. So the bubble wrap, this had stored in the bubble wrap and evidently was stored like this because gravity, well, it just dripped on down. And here it is. That's the drive wheel. This one has just completely dripped and just congealed, and it's now this messy, gooey stuff between the bubble wrap and this. So I threw the bubble wrap away immediately, but we can see there's a little bit here, so who knows how this thing was stored. But that's it. It's messy. See how this one operates. That's not bad. So it looks like the worst sliding one was the one I started with. But anyway, that's how it's done. So, hopefully this helps. And I thank you for watching. QICreader.com. If you do indeed decide to send this into Bob's Rubber Rollers like it is, if yours looks anything like the roller that I removed, you're going to need to provide some information when you send it in. And if you're working with a Wangtek model of drive like I showed, I've already provided that information for you, and here's where you're going to find it. So let's see here. You want to go to QICreader.com, and I have a tab right here on drive wheel. Right here is my section on drive wheel. All right, rubber drive wheel. So what you're going to want to do is scroll through here as I give some examples. Contact. And what you're going to need to provide is the diameter. And if the wheel's all melted off, how are you going to know what the original diameter was? Well, thankfully, I've already figured that out for you because I was lucky enough to get one of these with the correct diameter and figure out exactly what it was. It was soft. It was soft rubber, but the diameter was still maintained. It hadn't all melted off like these have. So just scroll down here to the Wangtek 5099 wheel diameter. That's going to be exactly the same as the 5125. Very good. And here it is. I took measurement on both. 0.628 inches. Or if you want to go millimeters, 15.95. Now, Bob's in Michigan in the United States, so I think he's going to prefer fractions of an inch over millimeters. So 0.628 is the diameter that you're going to want to tell Bob on the order form that you want that to be. So there you go. 0.628. So hopefully that is helpful for you. And if you're also working with an Archive 5945 with the same thing, well, the disassembly is different because, as you can see, the shaft is included there. I've also given you the diameter for these, so 0.478 and 12.12. Just don't confuse the two. Make sure that if you're sending in the Wangtek drive wheel that you use these diameters. Okay, well, listen, thank you for watching. Thank you for appreciating this particular content, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye-bye.